Salutations, possums. As I sit here on this rainy day in St. Louis, about a week away from the NFL draft, I ponder and I realize that, this is one of my favorite times of the year. Birds are chirping, everything's greening up. And I already said it, but the goddamn NFL draft is a week away. And oh, man, am I excited. There's going to be some fireworks in this draft. So if you guys are following along and you want to hang out with us, we will be doing a live stream on the first round of the NFL draft, including live reactions. I've done backflips. Josh has done a bunch of stuff. I think between all of us, we've drank about a gallon of Fireball during the last three drafts here. So, yeah, come on, hang out with us. We'd love to have you. Answer any questions in the chat. We respond to all comments. And you can watch us get progressively more tired. Jordan fell asleep one year. I think he partied a little hardy during the first 10 picks. So, yeah, it's a great time, guys. We want to see you. So, in spirit of that, tonight or today, whenever you listen to this, we will be discussing some storylines to look out for in the draft, as well as our favorite draft props that we have uncovered so you can have some fun and play along during the draft. So, guys, let's tailgate. Billy, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, Joe. Vegas is starting to tip the hand of what everybody's feeling in the draft. But at the same time, Joe, I don't know if Vegas knows themselves what the hell is going to go on in this draft. I think we kind of thought back when the combine was happening that there was definitely going to be 3 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks, maybe even 4 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks. Who knows if there's even going to be 1 or 2? Because I think other than the first pick, who in the world knows what's going to happen with the rest of these picks? So this is a very interesting time of year.
Dude, it's wide open. I mean, I thought I knew. We've done a couple mocks on OP. We thought we had a good idea of what was going to happen, and I have a feeling that no one knows what is about to be delivered to us on Thursday night. I think it's Thursday night, right? Something like that.
Yep.
We'll figure it out.
Yep.
Okay.
Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Going to be after the first pick. We have legitimately no clue, but let's just get right into it, Joe. Yeah. The first pick has pretty much been told to us. Bryce Young is at minus 1,400 to be the first pick by the Carolina Panthers. Just what are your general thoughts for him on that offense? What do you think that Carolina is going to get in Bryce Young on their team?
Well, we just saw the report that he scored a 98 out of 99 possible points on his personality, IQ, whatever the hell test he just took.
Wonderlic, right?
Wonderlic. Was it? I don't know. He's a smart dude. He's athletic as they come. He's coming from winning franchise. I mean, the guy knows how to win football games. He is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. We do have size questions about him, but I think if you're the Carolina Panthers, you have to take the biggest playmaker in this draft, and you have to get Bryce Young. That's how I feel about it. I felt about this for a while now. I understand the argument for Stroud because of the size or Richardson because of the upside, but Carolina made some pretty ballsy moves here, and I think you just have to go with the best player at this time, and that is Bryce Young.
I'm going to have to agree with you there completely. We were kind of just waiting to see. We kind of thought it was going to be Stroud for the longest time, but as the time has gone on, there's been some weird rumors about CJ Stroud and how his off the field. I don't know if I believe any of that, but we're at just that time of the year. But it looks like Bryce Young is the pick. Frank Reich has been chomping at the bit to get a new quarterback in there where he can work with and kind of mold and make into his offense. Last guy he had was Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz ended up being incredible. So, I mean, we can definitely take something from that. But then he gets to Indianapolis, and they kind of just patchwork quarterbacks together for the last couple of years, and it was a disaster. So he got to Carolina and immediately was like, hey, look, go get the number 1 pick. Let me get my guy, and let's get to work. So I think that if you're in a super flex draft, Bryce Young is the far and away number 1 pick. I don't even think there is any discussion, even if there is Anthony Richardson ends up on blank or CJ Stroud ends up on blank. I don't even think it matters. You need this guy because it appears as if this is going to be Bryce Young from here on out. I mean, it couldn't have been a better landing spot for him.
Yeah, and I mean, with Bryce Young, I saw a comp today, a smaller Tony Romo. So the guy just gets out there. He's going to make plays with his legs. He's going to make plays with his arms. I would be more worried about it if he didn't come from a program like Alabama that played against SEC talent all the time. He had absolute monsters on the line in front of him. So when he goes to the NFL, he knows what he's getting into. It's not going to be a massive leap. Nothing against Oklahoma, but Kyler, he didn't play against those type of guys right off the bat. So it was definitely a little more of a learning. I think Bryce Young comes in, puts up fantasy points for your team right away. They're building a pretty good squad around him. We talked it on the pod last night. They have a bunch of mediocre receivers. Hopefully Terrace Marshall takes a step. You put Miles Sanders back there. And I think you have
Adam Thielen will be good for him too.
I think you have a really solid offense around him just to kind of walk into, and that team's built to win. So all they were missing was a quarterback.
And I mean, just before we move on, and this is just speaking straight to the Carolina Panthers, get him an offensive line. Like the biggest mistake the Arizona Cardinals have made is that the fact that Kyler was very mobile in the pocket, they were just like, well, we can kind of patchwork the O-line because he's mobile. He can just get out of problems. But I think what we've come to find out is like the problem with having a small frame quarterback is once they get hurt, they get hurt. Like it's not like a simple sprain or a simple this or that. Like it's a bad injury. So like I would definitely implore Carolina, and they got one last year in Ike Ekwonu, as we covered last year. And I can see that they're trying to do that. And I think that that's definitely what they're going to have to do for him if he's going to be successful, because it's just Kyler in that situation. He needed a better O-line if he was going to be successful. And they just haven't done it in Arizona yet. And who knows if they ever will, but I'm hoping Carolina does not follow down that path. So,
yeah. And with the way Carolina's built, man, they could easily just draft him and then 7 offensive linemen, see what sticks, because the rest of that team's pretty built out. My only thing as a Chicago Bears fan, I hope it takes them a year to figure everything out and they're really good in 2025 or 2024.
Sure it will. And they still have a second-round pick, so there still is an opportunity for them to go up and grab somebody of some talent. They did trade one to the Bears, but they did keep one as well, so maybe they could go after an offensive lineman with that pick. All right, let's move on to number 2. It appears, Joe, Houston doesn't want a quarterback, which goes against, I think, everything that we could possibly think. Joe, how in the world are they going to justify to the Houston fan base that they're going to put Davis Mills back out there again? They didn't go trade for anyone, so like, what is the plan here?
It's a good question, man. Personally, I think if you're the GM and you do not draft a quarterback this year, it is your last year as a GM, especially if that team kind of goes through what it was last year. So I think for a professional level, there is going to be a quarterback drafted here. I don't know. You mentioned CJ Stroud's getting a lot of heat thrown at him right now. He is a very good quarterback, and he's much better than Davis Mills, and he is a guy that I think is going to have a good career in this league. He's very foundationally, he's probably the strongest in this draft. I mean, probably. I think you got to take him. Either that or you got to trade down and, hope to God that Levis or something, or at least you got to get Hooker. You have to get a quarterback on this team to tell your franchise that, hey, we're trying here. Maybe Trey Lance ends up there. Maybe you see something else like that, but they have to address the quarterback position. I think it's at number 2.
I have to agree, because I just don't see how they could possibly make this make sense to all their fans, the fact that they wouldn't take one. And I get it. DeMeco Ryans is a defensive-minded head coach. He gets in there, immediately sees the defense, and is like, hey, I need a guy. Let me go get me Will Anderson, the freaking second coming of Myles Garrett, even though he's probably not as good as Myles Garrett, but still the best pass rusher in this draft, best pass rusher at the last couple drafts. I mean, he's way better than Aiden Hutchinson was last year, and he went number 2 overall. So yeah. I definitely think if they do go Will Anderson, DeMeco Ryans has told that front office, we're building a GD defense. I don't care about the offense at all. Like, maybe he's taking a note out of Kyle Shanahan's book where he can just patchwork Brock Purdy and other things together to make something work. Maybe that's what his plan and vision is, and maybe they're falling for it a little bit, but I just don't know how you could possibly go to that fan base and say, hey, we're not taking a quarterback. We're just going to roll with Davis Mills. Sure, let's throw him out there. Like it would make more sense if they had gone for like Jimmy Garoppolo or something to do something like this, but seems a little late in the process to be making that decision, if it was me personally.
Yeah, I just think you're automatically fired if you don't get a quarterback. I don't care how good the team does next year. I don't know. They could try to get one. They're at 12, right? So they could try to get one at 12. But, I mean, with the way things are going and rising and falling, they must have a really good idea on their board if they do take Will Anderson at 2.
Yeah, I'm very confused at what the idea is. But see, this is the beauty of draft night, Joe, because we are going to be mind blown emoji if it's Will Anderson off the board at 2, because that's going to open up a whole lot of possibilities for there on after. But all right, quickly wanted to touch on Quentin Johnston not being invited to the draft. We kind of touched on it on the Offensive Points podcast yesterday, but I kind of wanted to get a little bit more like in-depth response to it, because like this is very strange, Joe, for a wide receiver to start as probably the second best wide receiver of the class. Most people, including I think me and you at one point, were saying this is the one number one in this class. So for him to fall behind, JSN, I don't think we're that surprised. But for him to fall behind Zay Flowers, for him to fall behind potentially Jordan Addison, like this is a very strange turn of events. So what is your read on that? Do you think it's just like overreaction, or like what do you think?
Someone's going to get a steal late in the draft on there. I mean, I do think Quentin Johnston's a hell of a football player. The drops are very worrisome. He did not test well at all. And I think that is really what is driving this price down. No one's excited, but I have to think that there is a scouting department somewhere that's like, hey, let's put this absolute freak of nature on the outside and get him the ball. And one of the smart franchises that annually is good is going to draft him. He's going to be good. It is weird he's not in the first round because, I mean, I understand the hype for Zay Flowers. Some outlets have him ahead of JSN right now, which is kind of crazy.
Which is wild to think.
The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are working him out, but I do think QJ has to be 3 on your board minimally just because of what he brings to a football team. And if we can get the drops figured out, I mean, remember Jamar Chase couldn't see the lines on the ball, and that was the mark on him. So
it's true. Well, I mean, and not long ago, DK Metcalf couldn't run a shuttle drill, and that dropped him all the way into the second round. I mean, that was just a few years ago. So it feels like we're already seeing a mistake like that potentially being made once again. So
just because he's falling on NFL boards and wasn't invited from the draft, you still, in my opinion, have to have him high. If you're going into your rookie draft, you have to have him higher than you think you do, I think.
Right. And I mean, historically, second round wide receivers have been massively undervalued, and then they've ended up being some of the biggest boom players that have happened. I mean, first round draft picks, especially at wide receiver, have been a lot of fool's gold. I mean, John Ross, Henry Ruggs, Kadarius Toney, even some respects. Like, there's been a lot of fool's gold taken in the first round. So even if he does drop to the second, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a death sentence. But just something interesting to see him not even invited, because that means that like the NFL isn't even sure that he would get his name called. I could see him turning it down, but not being invited, that's a little weird in my book.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 more questions, and then we can get into our bets. The next question is, where the heck is Anthony Richardson going to go? So now the odds of Vegas have, obviously, Bryce Young, number 1. C.J. Stroud and Will Levis, depending on where you look and what book you're looking at, are between 2 and 3. And then Anthony Richardson is just falling off of the face of the earth. I mean, I don't even know what the heck to say for him, because it doesn't appear as if they're treating him right. So, Joe, who's going to get a really what I consider a steal in Anthony Richardson?
Dude, it's so tough right now. I really want Tennessee to trade up and get Anthony Richardson. I don't care where they need to do it. If he starts sliding, I would love to see Anthony Richardson on that team. I would say he's going to Tennessee or Las Vegas or one of those teams. I would love to see if the Colts got him.
Poor him if he goes to Vegas.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is really weird. It's it kind of starting to seem like a Geno situation where he just keeps falling and falling and falling. But some GM's going to be smart and see what he has there and get this guy on a team. I would love to see Indy do it. I mean, you could see someone hop Indy and trade for him. So the range really is, in my opinion, 2 to 20 Got him in that range. I mean, the Commanders,
Yeah, I mean,
Tampa Bay. I mean, all these.
it's not gonna be a Malik Willis type fall. I don't think everybody, including the NFL, had Malik Willis going in the first round last year. He doesn't end up going to the third. I don't think we're looking at a situation like this. However, it is kind of interesting that right now, according to DraftKings, it's minus 400 for him to go over 4.5. So he's like, they're by far and away saying that he is not going until at least the 5th pick, which very, very interesting because I once he gets past 5, because that's where the Seahawks are at. If he gets past that, I mean, it's wide open for trade-up season. I mean, he is definitely a guy that anybody should be going after because the talent is just enormous.
Yeah, I mean, if something is gifted like that to you, the Lions could take him, the Falcons could take him. I mean, the Bears were talking about taking a QB. Tennessee, if Houston managed to walk out of this draft with Will Anderson and Anthony Richardson, I think that town would be running circles of jubilee.
It would be one of the craziest. I mean, we would just be penciling in Houston Super Bowl 2025. Like, it would be bananas if they ended up with both of them. But yeah, it's crazy because I thought for a little bit there was a sprinkle of hope that Anthony Richardson may go number 1 overall, and now for him not even be going in the first 5 picks that seems to be the consensus, which just seems crazy to me. But Vegas, they always have their finger on the pulse of these things. So
they do, but as smart as they are and as smart as NFL teams are and stuff, I do think there has to be just a little bit of playground pickup basketball game attitude. And if you see Anthony Richardson, you're like, that guy's my pick. That guy right there. He's my guy. And I feel like you have to do that at some point.
I think you're right about that. Okay.
Is he be okay, man?
Dude, my dog is on fire right now. All right. Last question I have before we get into the draft picks. Currently, against Josh's best wishes, the Atlanta Falcons are favored to take Bijan Robinson with their number 1 pick at number 8. He's plus 200 right now on DraftKings. Joe, are we going to win a fireball bet against Josh, or is this just kind of a Vegas trying to take people's money?
Yes, we are. I mean, Atlanta ran, they threw the ball 44% of the time last year. Arthur Smith wants to run the ball. I mean, Desmond Ritter's, from what we've seen, a Marcus Mariota 2.0, Marcus Mariota light. So Bijan makes his team competitive immediately, and I want to see it. It has to happen.
Yeah, so what's interesting about this is I've heard rumors about this as well, is that Arthur Smith wants to turn this into Tennessee Titan light, like where they could potentially draft him and use him in a Derrick Henry role. Interestingly enough, Derrick Henry didn't go until the 2nd round, which is hilarious looking back. Especially with like Clyde Edwards-Helaire going in the 1st round. Derrick Henry doesn't go until the 2nd round. But I do think that, that could be the direction they go. Would that piss everyone, including me, off in the fantasy community? Sure would, because that means that the pass catchers there are going to be further buried. Kyle Pitts was not brought there to pass block. I'm just saying. He was not brought there to pass block. We both know that. Drake London was not drafted in the top 10 last year to be a pass blocker or a run blocker either. So I don't know why they would go that direction, but I get that Arthur Smith might be thinking that way. It would only make sense that they've taken, like I had said, the best tight end of a class, the best wide receiver of a class, the best running back of a class this year, and then next year get the best quarterback in the class. Like that
Billy,
seems to be the direction they're headed.
Exactly why your theory is 100% correct. Is the Jonnu Smith going to Atlanta? Because in Tennessee, he had Jonnu, Corey Davis, and Derrick Henry. And I think he's trying to replicate that. Corey Davis, obviously, I think Drake London's a little bit better than him. It's safe to say. Kyle Pitts is definitely the starter, but that is exactly what's happening. And Bijan's wearing black and red. And I am going to laugh my ass off to all these people that have been hyping up Tyler Algier for, all offseason. Because that comes to an end right now.
Yeah, which it's kind of depressing if you went out and made a trade for Tyler Algier thinking, well, I mean, they can't go running back, right? Like they got to do something about like the defense or the O-line or maybe even quarterback. Well, the joke was on you all along because nope, they're going to end up going running back and you're going to have to sit with a random Tyler Algier on your bench that's never going to get used because what
trade
what
now
would
if you can
be his purpose? Because if you bring a player like Bijan in, he is not a split carries kind of guy. He is this is my offense. You better get out of here kind of guy. So
No.
I feel bad for anyone
real
that
quick,
is holding on to those shares.
Real quick, what do you think about MJD saying he would rather have Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson?
That sounds like such a MJD thing to say. Like,
Yeah.
I can see how he would enjoy watching Jahmyr Gibbs' game over Bijan Robinson's game, but like, come on, man.
I
like,
read
what are we
that
doing
headline
here?
and I'm like, yep.
Yeah, feels about right. Okay, well, we're going to end this podcast with a couple of good bets that I've noticed. I'll go first, Joe. We can kind of go back and forth with this. The first pick that I think is a smart bet. This is all on DraftKings. Well, I don't know. Yours might not all be on DraftKings, but mine are.
Yeah.
The first pick that I have is under pick 6.5 for Jalen Carter. It's currently plus 115. Here's the thing. I get the off the field issues. Nobody's trying to dismiss anything like that. And I get how some people have moved him down the board because of that. I think we've gone too far, Joe. He was projected to be potentially the number one pick before the quarterback started getting boosted up. And now he would go at 7. That sounds insane to me. I think if anything, somebody might trade up to get him at number 5 or 6. Seattle would be absolutely foolish not to take him at that position either. I think Jalen Carter is the best player in the draft. I don't know why he would go last this long unless those character concerns are really that big of a deal. But football-wise, this would be stupid for him to get past 7. So I'm taking the under on that. 6.5 is a very high number for me.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but they were saying Jalen Carter is the best defensive prospect to come out in the last decade. I could absolutely see it. His game is Seattle's going to take him. There's no way. Pete Carroll gives a flying shit about that off the field incident, especially when he's in the twilight of his career right now. He wants to win, so he's getting Jalen Carter. That is lock it in right there.
I agree. All right, Joe, what do you got?
So I got a couple here that are pretty interesting. So Nolan Smith is plus 140 to be taken before the 14th pick. And he's also plus 140 to be taken in the top 10. So you could double up there because when Philly selects him, you'll be laughing all the way to the bank there on that one.
Yeah,
I
was going to say, I like that quite a bit. I still think the people as a whole, even like the draft community as a whole, is still kind of down on him. But it's like, go watch the tape. Like the crazy combine he had with the speed that he had wasn't a fluke. Like that is the player that he was. He got injured. I mean, that's a fluke thing. And we were all kind of wondering what would he look like when he came back for the combine. And he had one of the best combines I can remember. So yeah, I definitely think he is still being undervalued. He's going to go earlier than that.
I just think if you put Nolan, Reddick, and Sweat on the same line, plus Jordan Davis clogging up the middle, there's no one's getting by them. That's
exactly. It would be silly for them to end up with him because I mean it's just a really good pick. So good pick, Joe. All right, this is kind of piggybacking off of a pick we talked about earlier. Currently, Bijan Robinson to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft is plus 120. Look, if you believe in the Atlanta Falcons theory that we kind of laid out earlier, if you do believe in the Eagles potentially being involved with him, I think they would be silly to go after Bijan, but they could do it. But either one of those guys, that's pick 8, that's pick 10. If you think either of those guys or those teams are going to go after him, then plus 120 for Bijan to go in the top 10 is just easy free money. So I think that is a good bet to at least hedge a little bit. I mean, if you think he's going to go on the outside, just in case you're wrong, you want a little money off of it. So I think that Bijan going in the top 10 is a good pick, especially at plus money.
Yep. I like that a lot too. We pretty much just nailed it down, so might as well put the money on that. All right. So the other one that I want to double up on right here is who will be drafted earlier? Drew Sanders, linebacker, at minus 150, or Jack Campbell at plus 120, even though DraftKings has their first linebacker selected odds as Jack Campbell minus 115 or Drew Sanders at 130. So they kind of hedged their bet there, but I would double up on the Jack Campbell being the first pick there. I think he is a stud of a linebacker. Drew Sanders has all the athletic traits, and Mace, I love you to death. Your analysis is absolutely correct, but I do think Jack Campbell is the better linebacker and one that teams will covet a little bit more.
I agree completely. I mean, there's a lot of word out there that Jack Campbell could sneak his way into the back end of the first round. Yeah, no, I think you're dead on there, and I think that could be easy money.
He has no holes in his game, from what I've seen.
I think you're right about that. Plus, it's just something about those Iowa guys. Just
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Exactly, Joe.
We're a bunch of good folk, You
really are. You really are. Okay, the last one I have pulled up is about tight ends. They currently have head-to-head Michael Mayer versus Dalton Kincaid. Which one's going to get drafted first? And Dalton Kincaid is currently plus 100 to go first. I personally think that he's going to be used a lot more than Michael Mayer. I know that there's a lot of people out there that say the Green Bay Packers are going to go after Michael Mayer with the 17th pick, which would leave Dalton Kincaid getting drafted afterwards. But Joe, and I know you hate him, but I just refuse to believe that Green Bay would be that silly. I just do. I think that they won't go tight end.
That's actually one of the bets that I had pulled up was that Green Bay is not going because they're plus 190 to go tight end first. They're going edge or, I mean, they're probably going to lose the
wide receiver even. I would believe wide receiver before I'd believe tight end. Like, I just don't see how. Yeah, I just don't see how they end up with a tight end in the first round when there's not bad tight ends in the second and third round, which probably do the same amount of goods. I mean, I bet they could get Darnell Washington in second. I think he goes in the first. I just think he's going to be in that because the thing is if they're dead about Quentin Johnston in the first round, then that means that they're all off on receivers in the first round. And Dalton Kincaid is a better receiver than some of these receivers in this draft. And you're getting a potential pass block 6'5" guy that's going to be a massive target out there. I could just see him being picked up in that 28th pick and then Michael Mayer dropping to day 2. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo could definitely use him. The Saints, even though I'm a huge Juwan Johnson guy right now, that would make a lot of sense too.
And it's just who gets drafted earlier. So even if they do fall to day 2, both of them, still a potential that somebody early in the round 2 picks up Kincaid before Mayer. I could see a chance where there's no tight ends in the first round at all, and they just load up on whatever defense for some reason, but. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
No, this one.
All right, Joe.
I got 2 more on there. One's for fun, so we can just glance over. This one's kind of fun too. But Mr. Irrelevant is either going to be a defense or punter or offense or kicker, both at minus 115. I am putting on my offense or kicker bet because a punter has never been chosen, and that slices the odds in the favor of the kicker. So, boom.
So that's the offensive player, right?
Yeah.
Is that the one? That's kicker. Okay. I was thinking about this. I don't know if you happen to see the story, but I just happened to see it glancing. There was a player that was going to get drafted in the rounds 5 or 6 that was in a car accident, actually. And it was a pretty bad car accident. He got hit by a drunk driver. And my thinking is that maybe he ends up, if that dropped him off of people's boards, that maybe some team – makes him Mr. Irrelevant, just to kind of honor him. So that kind of, I think goes along with what you're thinking here with the kicker or an offensive player, because there's a chance that receiver gets taken in that spot. If not drafted earlier, he might get drafted earlier. I don't know. But if he doesn't, he could end up being Mr. Irrelevant rather than being completely undrafted.
Yeah. I like that thought, man. I
definitely think as a good faith thing that could be something they do. Okay, we had one more fun one.
I do it once here. Oh, yeah. So this one is for our buddy Josh. So DraftKings has a really fun one, and it is Stetson Bennett draft odds.
Yeah, I saw that one.
In the first round, it's plus 10,000, second plus 6,000, third round plus 2,000, fourth round plus 750, fifth round plus 450, sixth and seventh round both plus 350, and undrafted is the favorite at minus 105. So I guess should we just put $100 of Josh money on the first round since that's what he wants?
I guess so. Since he thinks he's still going to end up in the first round, I guess we'll just put, why not? Let's put $100 on it. Let's win $10,000 because Josh thinks he's going to go in the first round, against all odds.
Pretty epic. on that one. So
I saw.
that's one I am going to
I
make
did see that one.
when you make your trip across the river to go to the farmer's market. Make sure that Josh gives you his pick for that because I want to see how that works out.
I definitely will. Okay, well, that's all we got for this week. Just had to get some draft thoughts out there. We've had a lot. I haven't done one of these episodes in a while, which has been unfortunate. Joe has been Mr. Busy all over the world right now, so he hasn't been on this episode in a minute. So I'm glad we were able to get this one out. Follow the socials, everyone. You got OP at OP Joe 2 E's on Twitter. You got me at Ombre Vendor. You got next week, we're going to be doing a draft live stream on YouTube. We're going to be watching the first round of the NFL draft. I know for sure it's going to be me, Jordan, and Joe. I don't know who else. Josh says he's going to pop in. He's going to be at a rehearsal dinner for a wedding, so I really doubt he's going to be able to actually do much from that, but he seems to think he's going to be able to live stream in. I doubt it, but it will for sure be us three, and we're going to be having a good time and talking through chat, talking through the picks, giving instant reaction. We have a blast every year. We usually make fireball bets and shots and stuff during the draft, so it's always been a lot of fun. I won my fireball bet I made against myself last year where I thought Kayvon Thibodeau was not making out of the top 5 picks, and he didn't. I count that one as a dub. So anyway,
making the fireball bet against yourself was epic.
I make one every year. This year, I'm not going to lose. I made it back in November when PFF had Tanner McKee at pick 12. And I said, he doesn't go in the first round. I'll take 10 fireball shots if he goes in the first round. Feeling pretty good about it right now, Joe.
I'm praying he does now just to watch you slam 12 fireballs.
Yeah, that would be a pretty tough beat on my end if Tanner McKee ends up in the first round of the draft. But I was so blown away in my mind that they had him in the first round. I was like, how much money is the McKee family paying the PFF to put him up there? Because he is not that guy. And he wasn't, and he isn't. So I don't think that's what's going to happen.
But he's so efficient.
Feels like it. Anyway, Joe, you got any final thoughts? And get us, or if not, get us out of here.
Yeah, enjoy the week leading up to the draft. Enjoy all the crazy ass news cycle that's going to be upon us. You're going to hear a lot about these candidates and players, if you will, to move them up, down, move up. So keep your pulse on that. It's going to be fun to watch, and we will see you on Wednesday and Thursday of next week. So
double